I'm going to give a review on this KIC2500 series keypad only thing. I was not paid to make this review, so it is of my honest opinion, if you will. This is what you get in the box. You get a reader, you get it's a little ESP32 second generation, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, with a pigtail that has an MCX connector on it, even though everything else in the packaging has an MMCX connector. Also, we'll talk about that in just a minute. You get this inside 12-volt door adapter with a Wi-Fi antenna. You get the mounting plate for it in the back. You get these two little headers, and inside this box you get what would be the UFL connector to an MMCX adapter along with the diode for your strike. We'll talk about the connector later. I ordered this because I wanted to install it in a single gang outdoor exposed area, which no problem. It also gives you a little waterproof gasket, right? For access into an Airbnb type platform. The key and code has a connection with remote lock, which is what made this product attractive, or worth purchasing on this one-off example. However, I don't think I would buy it again. I've yet to install it, but I'm a little bit unimpressed, and I'm gonna go over why. Here's the mounting plate that you would normally install to hold the key fob together. As you can see, it is not quite the size of a one gang plate, so installing this in a standard American one gang mud ring is going to be an interesting challenge. I mean, the normal Hidprox readers and all your other full-size readers are going to be way over the size of, a one gang mud ring. I just have a crappy wall plate because that's what I found around my apartment, but you can see where the screw holes are of this and where the screw holes are of that. It has a magnetic reed sensor on it, and obviously it has the other one here, probably for tampering, so that if you supposedly take it off the wall, probably, I'm guessing, it'll disable the ability for the strike to be opened or activated, or maybe it cuts the power completely, the lock. I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you this: if I was gonna go as far as taking this thing off the wall and I'm a nefarious actor, I'm pretty sure I know enough to bypass the magnetic reed switch. So I'm gonna say that this is a waste of space inside of this housing. Second thing, you have these two headers here. One is for your power in, the other one is for the contact closure. This whole product, probably runs on 5 volts according to the spec sheet, and that's why there is this little buck boost. It's just a buck only converter to buck it down to 5 volts from your 12-volt input, and then it probably has, there you go, a 3-volt relay so that the 5 volts that come from here can trick this. Now, granted, I guess in the original spec of how this thing was intended to be installed, this probably functions very well for most people. You install your strike, you install your reader, and it expects that you install everything indoors like this. The whole point of this module here, so you can then plug in your 12 volts. This, if I did this in most settings, would probably look like crap if I just had a 12-volt wire just hanging out next to this bar, next to the door. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to extend all of this with just a piece of Cat 5 and just double up on the pair so that I can have the smart parts elsewhere. Say like in a, 20 feet away in a can somewhere. The one positive thing about this is that if they had read the spec sheet on their new board, because it actually says on the spec sheet of the ESP32 that it actually has an MHL3 UFL style connector, not the classic 2mm connector, I probably would have gotten this on time. Anyway, one smart thing or one cool thing is that at least they thought to include to you a little bit of whip and a little bit of antenna, to bring the antenna indoors, probably where your Wi-Fi coverage is good. Most of these remote doorbells and most of these doorbells, have just little shit Wi-Fi cards in them, and then you're screwed and you have to extend the Wi-Fi somehow to the front door. But let me go back to this page here for a minute just to talk about how unfeasible I think this is also in real life. If you notice on this installation diagram page, it says here that apparently you need to put the blue and green contact closure header up above and then the power header below it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then it says here battery wiring. And it shows here, let's assume that these are AA's, 3 volts, 6 volts, okay, close enough to tolerance, and then connected to a strike. I do not know of any 6-volt strike, okay? I don't think this is feasible in real life. Let's talk, so how would I make this better, okay? Get rid of this magnetic reed switch. It is pointless. Second, inside this gap in here, I have found, and I will show it to you on the screen in just a little bit, a DigiKey controller, or I found one on DigiKey that is a buck converter from 28 volts, everything from 8 to 28 down to 5 volts. You could stick that in here or make a little board that like screws onto this, two screws here for support the same way that this little magnetic reed switch is here, and then on the underside mount the buck converter, and maybe to the left the relay, and maybe just have some screw terminals up here on the top, so that way then you can connect your jumpers from here to little screw terminals here, so that I can bring my 24 volt and 24 volt strike, you know, closure wire and just screw it on down here at the bottom. Second, how am I supposed to know which jumper is which? Why not just put the color, or why not just put a little R on the board here for the bottom one, you know, for like the red wire, and a B one up on top of here for blue, for the blue wire. This is the same even in German, okay? Blau and Rot are the same initialed letters, okay? And change the size somehow, maybe add material around this faceplate so that it can then, or maybe somehow move it down, I don't know, I mean, so that you can probably, you know, feed like 2 holes through it, you know, or maybe just like 2 holes like right here, or maybe just like partly fit, so that way then I can mount it on a proper, well, proper to us, but even to an 86 box, you know, used in the rest of the world, this is still quote unquote not proper. For comparison on that, for example, I can show you a retrofit product that is worldwide 86 box, and this is a wall access point, but this is their mounting plate, for example. And as you can see here, it has, you know, 2 holes that would fit on an American 1 gang, and the 2 holes here on the side for an 86 box. This would make everybody happy. Oh, by the way, the buck converter on DigiKey is about half the price of the buck converter that's on this board here. And it's not from some unreputable brand. Anyway, this is my opinion on this lock. Oh, and how I know that no one looked at the spec sheet of the new ESP32, which is a very common chip for people that want to make Wi-Fi connected things, is that if you look in the packaging, it has a proper 2mm UFL connector that would normally fit like on your Wi-Fi card, etc., with the proper MMCX connector on the back end. And that's my opinion. Take this as constructive criticism. A little board down here would be nice, and I would bitch considerably less, especially with a more wider input buck boost. And if you want to be even more of a sport, put a little jumper on it so I can make the relay, you know, common input wet from the same voltage that's coming from, you know, the power to feed this thing, and just put the diode on board if you feel it's so important. I know people say to install them. I never do. Sure, think that I'm a hack. I don't mind. Have a great day.